Good afternoon, folks. My name's Sandy. This is Sawing with Sandy. Welcome back to the woods and welcome back to the chop shop. This right here behind me is the structure that I've recently built. It's a log structure on 3 sides, 2 lean-tos and an open area at the front. This building I call the chop shop because this is where I typically process firewood. Now, that wasn't always the idea. When I started building this, my idea was to store equipment in it, implements for the tractor. Well, at this point, I've got no implements in there. I got my utility trailer there, and that's about it. Obviously, the wood splitter's up there. But that idea has morphed into this idea for processing firewood because this seems like a great use of space. Don't know if it'll always be like this. I might go back to implement storage at some point. But for now, it's working out quite well. So this whole process, just to give you a rundown, I have a newly created log deck. The log deck allows me to drive up here with a tractor and the forks or the grapple, log loader trailer, move the firewood logs up here. Then I roll the firewood logs up to this location where I'm standing. And in between the 4x4s, I can make cuts with the chainsaw. I then take my firewood round and I put it up here on top of the wood splitter. That's the Easton Made Ultra. Then I run it through the 4-way wedge, and then it falls right off the table here into my IBC cage. This process here has been working so well for me. That's why I've kept it as the chop shop for processing firewood. But as I said, I've got some unused space back there. We may get some implements in here after all. With that in mind, many of you out there probably burn firewood just like I do. And it's great because it heats you 3 times, and we all know this. It heats you when you split it. It heats you when you stack it, and it heats you when you burn it. Out of those 3 things though, one of them I don't do. Stacking. I'm going to tell you today why I gave up stacking a long time ago, and you guys out there can tell me whether I'm on the right track for doing that or whether I should take up stacking again. Welcome back. So head back a few years in time. What I used to have happen was I would have a dump truck show up and it would deliver already split firewood, and then it would pull away and I would be left with cords and cords of wood piled up into this mountain of firewood that was nearly as tall as the shed there. Maybe not quite. But anyways, it was quite the effort for me to stack a year's supply of firewood in one go. And it took me days. My mind was completely numb, because it's relatively repetitive work, and also it took a toll on my body. And so eventually, once I moved from that location and I got to a location like this where I had lots of space, I started to have a little bit of equipment like the tractor, and I looked into IBC cages. I had a thought that rolled around, and that thought was, do I really need to stack firewood anymore? Or can I stick to doing things that I enjoy and then just keep the firewood in the IBC cages to dry and move them around as I need it? Is that going to give me the same quality of firewood? And turns out it does. And so that day, once I discovered the firewood was equally as dry, equally as good, I stopped stacking firewood. And so as you can imagine, in order to get logs right here, these logs happen to be delivered to me. So these logs got dropped off by a log truck. I brought them over here with the log loader trailer, loaded them up, or sometimes I'll use the tractor forks, but I loaded them up, so I didn't touch these by hand, obviously. And then I'm going to touch these rounds once when I cut them. So I'll roll them up to here, I'll cut the rounds, I will handle this once, from here to here. I'll split the firewood, it'll fall off into the IBC cage, and believe it or not, that is the last time I will touch that firewood until it goes into my home in order to be burnt. That right there is one heck of a time saver. Not to mention, it's quite nice sitting inside my tractor cab, drinking sludge while I'm moving the firewood stack around out in the meadow out there. So, full IBC cages with the tractor go from there. And then they look something like this. What I found is when I put this in an open area and I leave it there for, 1 year or so, it dries to the point where I can burn it really, really well. And so if we look here, you're not going to get the same amount of firewood in a given space as you would stacking it, but loose filled like this, it saves me a heck of an effort. You're going to get a lot of airflow through here, and so this stuff's going to be bone dry. I normally don't stack it here. This is just sort of an intermediate spot. Where I stack it is up here, and I more or less just stack it into rows, and I'll go and show you that now. All right, so as you can see, and I was using the word stack, what I mean is position. I just position the wood in rows like this, and then I can just keep track mentally of what got put there when, and then I just take from this when it's time to burn. Now you're going to notice there's not a lot of IBC cages of firewood here right now. That's because I've already put it away under cover for this year's winter. In just a moment, I'm going to show you that. But before we go any further, these IBC cages, I've found as long as the sun's hitting them and it's getting adequate airflow, this dries really, really well. And so this is the general location where I bring the IBC cages to with the tractor forks. And you can see we've even got a pile of IBC cages ready to go for when I get the next batch split. Over there, you have a look there, some hardwood logs piled up, ready to go. Those are going to eventually make their way back to where we just were, up onto the log deck and cut into firewood. Now right there, I will not be touching these, obviously. That'll be heavy equipment. And so once again, I'll be sitting inside the tractor cab, watching it all happen with my sludge cup. Oh yeah, and another thing, I don't cover firewood in the warm months. The only time I cover firewood is when it becomes fall and I'm going to burn that firewood in that winter. So this firewood in the IBC cages, they sit out here all spring, summer, and early fall without cover. It gets rained on. What I find is if you cover it, and this is my experience, if you cover it, you're more likely to trap moisture than if you leave it uncovered. If it's uncovered and it gets rained on all year, that's fine. That water evaporates with the sun. But if you leave it covered, you're not giving it that chance to dry out sometimes. And so the wood doesn't get that fast dry that it does. 1 year is all it takes, I find, to get the wood nice and dry. So if I cut it in the winter, I will put it out here in the spring, let it sit there spring, summer, early fall, and I can burn it that winter. All right, so this is one of those portable garages, and if we have a look at it, this one's relatively large. I think it's 10 feet wide and 24 feet long, maybe 10 feet high. I keep firewood in here, and as you'll see in a minute, it's stacked right from end to end. So what I've got here, I think I've got 18 IBC cages in here. Duck in here and see what we can see. Can't see a heck of a lot, that's for sure. So if we start counting at the back, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yep, so 6 long. Let's get out of here so we can see again. So it's 6 long, 6 here on the bottom, 6 here on the bottom, so that's 12. And then I was able to stack one more up high. I don't know if you'll be able to see up there, not very well. And so we have 18 IBC cages of firewood in total. And that gives me just a little bit of space up there at the roof. And just enough so that I won't hit it when I'm trying to get it out of here with the tractor forks. And so I will keep this year's firewood in here. And that way when the snow flies, it's covered. I can open this up, come in, grab an IBC cage with the tractor forks, and take it right up to the house. So those IBC cages, as I said, I'll take them with the tractor right up to the house. I'll put it nice and close to the door. And then when I need it, I just walk outside with my boots on, grab an armful of firewood, and then inside I go into that Osborne wood stove and burn away. Now, once I get to the bottom, it just becomes a matter of fishing my arms through the little holes to grab the firewood out of the IBC cage. Once it gets really low, I will actually turn it on its side, the IBC cage that is, and then I can grab the firewood out as I need it. Now, I will take a piece of metal or sometimes a tarp, just throw it over that cage so that the snow doesn't fill it in when it's sitting at the side of the house. But a very simple process, and as I said, I can just exchange the empty IBC cage once I use it with another one, and away I go. Now there's one other spot that I have firewood, and I'll take you to show you that. This is where I used to stack firewood until I gave up on that altogether. Let's go have a look. So this right here will be my first version of a woodshed. Now this woodshed is about 24 feet long, 8 feet wide. This is where I used to take firewood and neatly stack it. So I would have it full right to the roof. I would get, I think, 3 rows in there, maybe 4 rows. And then I would come here with a sleigh or a wheelbarrow, grab firewood as I would need it, and take it up to burn it. Now that was fine and dandy, but as I mentioned before, I got sick and tired of stacking. And so this is what I'm left with. Now I just come by with a bucket or two of firewood, and I just dump it in there as high as I can. And so I've got a little bit of extra firewood floating around here. And as you can see, not a lot of it is hardwood. A lot of this is softwood. And so I will take from here until it gets real cold out. And then when I need the good hardwood, I've got that in those IBC cages inside that portable garage thing. And so I'll go and grab it from there. But I'll end up just using this for the shoulder seasons, a little bit now in the fall, a bit more in the spring. And that's what we're left with, just a big old pile. And then once the wood's gone, I can store stuff in there other than firewood. Well, there we go. That's the entire process from start to finish. Whole logs, cut logs, split logs, moved logs, dried logs, stored logs, burned logs. I'm a firewood guy through and through. One thing I do not like doing is stacking firewood. If you like stacking firewood, hats off to you. It's just not my cup of tea. It doesn't mean I won't do it at all in the future, but with all this heavy equipment around and all the jobs I want to get to, I just don't dedicate a lot of time to it because it's not the thing that I enjoy doing the most. That's it for me here today. As you can see behind me, I'm going to be splitting for the next while. These logs here are not even for this winter. They're going to be probably for next winter. And so make sure you come back and join me for that. I'm always happy to have everyone out there. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, you know where it goes down below in the comments. As always, please do me that favor. Give this video the like-a-roo. Make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you next time.